Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Action for the Soul. This week's Parsha is Parshat Vayishlach. And Parshat Vayishlach is a Parsha that is filled with so much depth and detail. The Chachamim point out that whenever they would go to meet any kind of dignitary throughout history, if they were going to meet with a pope, a general, a president, the custom was that the rabbi or whoever the representative of the Jewish community would be, he would read Parshat Vayishlach before he would go. That the Parsha itself talks about this union between Yaakov and Esav, and that confrontation is a confrontation that we're always going through, and therefore the Parsha itself gives us a deeper understanding as to how to deal and find insight in how we work with the outside world. But I don't want to spend too much time talking about the battle. We know that the Parsha begins with Yaakov reuniting with Esav. Vayishlach means he sent the Malachim. Rashi says Mamash, that he sent them these messengers or angels, and to go ahead and intimidate Yaakov. Intimidate Esav. And we know he ends up preparing in three ways. He separates his, he sends gifts, he separates his camps, and then he prays. Okay? Story moves on. Now, we know that, according from the Midrash, that Dinah, was hidden, right? It says that he had his 11 children, right? Binyamin was not born, okay? Dinah should have been there, and she should have been number 12. The question is, why isn't Dinah present? And this is just I like the idea of transitioning to this conversation because of the conversation we had earlier, right? If you're watching this, I gave a class before this called The Merit of Righteous Women, and so it's somewhat interconnected. So what happens like this? Let's go through the backstory, okay? Leah is pregnant, okay? And she already has 6 of the 12 Shvatim. And all the Imaot knew there's going to be a total of 12 Shvatim. She's pregnant, and she feels that this baby is going to be a baby boy, number 7. She feels bad. She does a Dinah, right? She does a din b'cheshbon, says, you know what? I am not going to have a baby boy, because how is it possible that if I have number 7, that means that all the maidservants had 2. Okay, my sister Rachel only had 1, and my sister Rachel's only have 1 of the 12, one of the Shvatim, and the maidservants are going to have more than her. I can't do that to her. So she sits there and she does the tefillah and she davens to Hashem. She prays, Hashem, I want you to change the gender of this child, Dinah, and make it into I want it to be a girl. So she's supposed to have 7 of the Shvatim, and she does her own din b'cheshbon and says, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to have Dinah instead. I'm going to have a girl. Beautiful. Wow. Sacrifice, right? Who would do that? For me, I'll take everything. I want all 12. But Leah and her high level of spirituality, we'll speak about Leah, Bezrat Hashem, when we get there in a few weeks. So she makes this sacrifice. We know from the Midrash that Yaakov says, I can't let Esav see Dinah. He's going to fall in love with her. She's beautiful. And I'm afraid that if he sees her, I'm not going to be able to say no to him. And I don't want him to have anything to do with her. So he takes her and places her in a box, hides her. Doesn't want her to be seen. In a special caravan, where she's away. Now, Midrash says, had Dinah married Esav, she would have changed him. She would have turned his heart and made him come back and join Yaakov. As a matter of fact, we know from the story that goes earlier, right? When Yaakov sees Rachel for the first time, what happens? He cries, right? Vivke. And Rashi says over there, the reason why he cries is because he realizes that Rachel won't be buried with him. Rachel and him, even though he wants her so badly, he can never fully have her. And the question is why? Now, Rachel, Leah, sisters, Yaakov, Esav, brothers. We know that part of Lavan's criticism to Yaakov is when he wanted to marry Rachel, and he gave her Leah instead. As well, in our society, the younger one doesn't take the older one, right? It doesn't work that way, right? So the older daughter has to go first, and that was his way of snobbing out Yaakov and saying, you try to steal the Bechorah from Esav. It doesn't work like that in our country, right? The older one goes first always. You can't take that away from her, okay? And therefore marry her first. Now, Yaakov recognizes that, and this is also from the sources, that he was supposed to marry Rachel, and Esav was supposed to marry Leah. He couldn't marry Leah At the very least, maybe he could marry Leah's daughter, and she could change him. And that was also taken away from him. Now, Dinah goes out, and what ends up happening? It says, "V'tetzei Dinah bat Leah asher yalda leYaakov lirot bebnot haaretz." She wants to go out and she says, "I want to see the girls. I want to see what they're wearing. I want to see what the culture is. I want to see what they're doing." V'yir'a ota Shechem ben Chamor. Think about that name for a second. The guy's name is Shechem ben Chamor. For those non-Hebrew speakers, Chamor means a donkey. This is the Shechem. The name of his father's name was donkey. Okay, and you could use all kinds of languages. There's other words for donkeys. Okay, so ben Chamor hachivi, nasi haaretz. He was the prince of the land. V'yikach ota v'yishkav ota v'yaneha. Okay, he took her and he violated her. Okay, and he did things to her that were inappropriate. He did things to her in a way that would a normal man would not do to a woman. He abused her. Okay, he fell in love with her. Now, how does God allow this to happen? Now think about Leah for a minute. She just finds out that the daughter that she prayed so hard for is raped by this Shechem ben Chamor, right? So, B'tidbak nafsho, b'dina, he loved her, by Yaakov, he loved her, right? V'yomer Shechem el Chamor aviv, lemor, kach li et hayalda hazod l'isha, I want to marry her. She's awesome. Yaakov shama, Yaakov heard, ki tim'a et dina bito, that he heard that his daughter Dinah was defiled. Hayu mikneu b'sadeh v'chichresh Yaakov ba'ad ba'am. Like he was lying, he was so broken, right, by this whole story. V'itzav chamor et Abi Shechem el Yaakov v'daber. They wanted to go out and let's talk. Let's have the families talk about it a little bit, okay? Barei Yaakov ba'u min hasadeh k'shama v'yityatzvu hanashim v'yichara. And they got really upset. Ki navla asa b'Yisrael nevela, right? V'yidaber chamor itam. He speaks to them. You have to read through these psukim on your own. I don't want to go through all of it. Okay, because we don't have that much time. I'm already halfway more than I want to go. So if you go through the whole entire storyline over here, eventually Shimon and Levi find out what happened. They said, no problem. You want to marry our sister? No problem. In order for you to marry our sister, you got to go Brit Milah. Everyone's got to get Brit Milah. So amazing, they all get Brit Milah, and Levi and Shimon knew that on the third day of Brit Milah, a man's the weakest. All the men in Shechem got their circumcision. Levi and Shimon come in, and they wipe out, genocide all the men. Gone. Right? Kill out all the men. Yaakov is mortified. How could you do this? Are you crazy? Everyone's going to think that we're this powerful people. There's going to be retribution. We can't handle this. Okay? And listen to the brothers. The brothers say back, "Vayomru hakezona yaset achotenu." You want our daughter to be turned into a prostitute? Our sister to be turned into a prostitute? No, we're going to fight. We're going to show these people you can never ever do anything like this. We're going to burn down every single city. We're going to burn Gaza down to the ground. This is where the Israeli army got this concept from. You come in and you rape, you pillage. The only response is crazy violence, ridiculous violence. That's not the part that I want to talk about. The part I want to talk about is this. Explain to me midah keneged midah. Why was Leah punished? Now, we know that Dinah had a baby from this union. Okay, what was her name? Her name was Osnat. Osnat was sent to Egypt, right? And Osnat was adopted by someone named of Potiphera. Okay, Potiphera, that's right, had a vision that she was going to that she would have descendants from Yosef. She didn't realize, because she couldn't have any children, it would come from her adopted daughter. Osnat. Ends up happening, Yosef marries Osnat and has two children. What were their names? Ephraim and Menashe. Okay? So now, let's go back for a second. If you listen to the story and you stop right over here, the violence and the pain that Leah and Yaakov are going through is not fair. It's not right. Right? It's not right. Now, what was Rachel's din v'cheshbon? I don't want to take away a shevet from my sister. I'm going to make this cheshbon so she could have a shevet. And she got that shevet, Rachel. But what does God do? God rewards Leah with two new shvatim. Ephraim ukmenashe, Keruven, and Shimon. When Yaakov blesses the shvatim at the end of his life, he says that Shimon and Reuven and Shimon are like Ephraim and Menashe. They each get another tribe in Israel. So while Leah makes the sacrifice and says, you know what, hey, it's not for me, at the end of the day, she ends up getting double what she sacrificed. Her concern was taking a shevet away from her sister. Because she made that sacrifice, she gets up 2. Now, how do we deal with the Dinah story itself? Lots of very painful commentaries over here. And the big question is, number one, in the beginning, it says as follows. Look at how the pasuk says, "V'tetzeh Dinah," right? And Dinah went out, right? V'tetzeh Dinah bat Leah. Why does the Torah need to tell me that it's bat Leah? Who else is she? Bat whom? Not bat Rachel, not bat Yaakov. Who is she? Bet it says V'tetzeh Dinah bat Leah asher yalda leYaakov. Right? Look at Rashi says, Bat Leah, v'lo Bat Yaakov, ele al shem sheyetzata nikrat Bat Leah. The reason why she is called Bat Leah is because she went out. Okay? Sha'af hi yetzanit hayta, shenemar v'tetzeh Leah likroto. Right? She is called Bat Leah because Leah goes out to call out Yaakov. Remember, when Yaakov was switching beds back and forth, right? And Reuven came and switched back the beds. Right? So she, v'tetzeh Leah, she goes out. Now, the nature of a feminine quality is not to be someone that goes out. It's a primiut. It's an inner tzina kind of thing. And this act of Leah being a yatzanit, going out, looking outward, was a criticism of Leah. Right? She goes out. Now, what's interesting is, remember that pasuk I told you earlier about in our class? We had it about 20 minutes ago. I said, Zachar kovesh et nekeva, right? You know what Rashi says over there? Rashi over there says, in that pasuk of kivshuha, right? He says that he says this is the actual Rashi. Rashi says over there, kivshuha chaser vav, lamcha to teach you shazachor kovesh et nekeva, that the male has to conquer the female. Ready? I didn't tell you this part. Ready? Shelo tihiyeh yatzanit, so that she does not become a yatzanit. V'od lamcha sha'isha shedarko likovesh, sha'ish shedarko likovesh, mitzvah al peri v'ribiyah v'lo ha'isha. So what's that pasuk talking about? Over here you have, later on, right, in history, this idea of yatzanit. She's going out. We don't want her to go out. The reason why the man has to fulfill the female is because if he's unable to conquer her, she will look elsewhere to find that fulfillment. You understand that? Dinah was looking to get married, and maybe she was supposed to be with Esav. I don't know what happened over there, but because of that lack of her own curiosity was unsatiated, she looks outward. And when a woman is looking outward for that excitement and those thrills, that's where she gets in trouble. And therefore the Parsha is telling us that, of course, this is a criticism on some level of Dinah, but at the same time, even though there's something powerful and profound about her own sacrifice of allowing her sister to have these shvatim, and she was rewarded for that. But be mindful, my friends, that most women are curious. And I'll even go back further. If you look back at the story of Adam and Chava, right? This is what Midrashic, by the way, so I apologize. Those of you that don't like Midrash are not going to like this, okay? But Midrash says that why did the snake come? Why was he in the story? What was he doing there? Why did he bother even approaching Chava? Why did he come to talk to her? See what the Midrash says? Midrash says that Adam took the mitzvah Puruvu very seriously, and so did Chava, and they were together. And right afterwards, what happened? Adam rolled over and went to sleep. But Chava was wildly curious. And when the Nachash saw that Chava was unsatiated, that's when he comes to go ahead and take advantage of her. Women, there's natural curiosity. You ever hear the expression, the curiosity killed the cat? You got to be very careful of that nature. Because it could be a powerful thing that builds things, and it could be a super destructive thing that ends up destroying things. But I would say like this, the Parsha itself is about making sacrifices. The Parsha itself is about, finding a strategy about how to live in a world in a meaningful kind of way. And if we don't think more deeply about the things that we do, we end up allowing the outside world to define those things for us. And when the outside world defines those things for us, my friends, we are in trouble. May Hashem bless us. As we're in the month of Kislev, the month of darkness. There's a month of a cold and separation. We're alone, disconnected, and we naturally get into more fights this time of the year because I get the phone calls right now from everybody fighting with Shalom Bayit, right? This is the time of the year we get the most amount of trouble. The way we fix it is by going inward. That's what Chanukah is about. Right? The Pachim Ktanim in the Parsha itself that Yaakov goes back for, Chazal say, were the small little jugs of oil that he left behind. That had the power of renewing itself. He goes back for something small and insignificant. The small little things of introspection have massive consequences for future generations. May Hashem bless us with that clarity of going inward to build a beautiful world outward. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and have a great week. Thanks for listening.